Hello everyone. So I've just nearly finished my first 2 weeks after my first round of chemo. I was recently diagnosed with Hodgkin lymphoma, and about 2 weeks ago I started my first round of ABVD chemotherapy in the hospital. It has been a very weird couple of weeks. And just a weird time overall. I was feeling so positive before I went into this, and I know it's a challenging situation, but I felt really strong mentally. I felt like I had the support of so many people around me. I put up a post on Instagram and everyone was sort of cheering for me and sending me these beautiful messages. I just felt so strong and I kind of embraced it. And I mean, when I first got the diagnosis, I was really scared and sad and shocked and overwhelmed. But I just felt this inner strength and some type of new faith and passion that I was going to get through this journey, and that somehow, I was meant to share my story during this time. In the past, there's been times when I've talked a lot on social media or shared my story. I am a public speaker. Unfortunately, my voice has been impacted by the cancer. I usually have a beautiful speaking voice, so that's been really hard for me. I also have a little baby. She's a toddler now. She's about 14 months old, and one of my tools as a mum is a voice. So one of the hardest things I think has been losing my voice, but I'm trying to see the opportunities and the blessings in this experience. So within the first 2 weeks, I did go on a medication called Zoladex, which is a medication they often give breast cancer patients, and they also give it sometimes apparently to prostate cancer patients. And they use it, I think they actually use it for endometriosis too, and in some cases Hodgkin lymphoma, where they want to treat, where they want people to preserve their fertility. I looked into freezing my eggs and going through IVF pretty rapidly once I started seeing the hematology team. But I didn't want to delay my chemotherapy treatment, so I didn't go through with freezing my eggs. I was also worried about having to have the additional injections and the toll that would take on my body. So this Zoladex was a happy medium. I had my first chemotherapy. The first few days were like, okay. I was on the steroids, and I think those medications balance everything out. I did have challenges with my mouth, and I woke up in the middle of the night with a sore tongue, and I had these ulcers, and I remember just getting some icy poles, and that seemed to help. By day 4 or 5 of after my first treatment, it was Easter Sunday, and I just remember seeing everyone on social media enjoying their Easter and doing Easter egg hunts with their kids. And obviously for me, having the little one, that was something I really wanted to do this year. Last year she was a little baby at Easter time, and we dressed her in a bunny suit, but this year she's more interactive and in that toddler age. But I was really, really tired on Easter Sunday. I didn't do much. My husband and my baby went to a family gathering, but I just rested at home. And then on the Easter Monday, my family all came over to do an Easter egg hunt with my daughter. And that was really sweet of them. But I just remember I was so tired. I didn't feel like I could get out of bed. I didn't feel like I could come and participate. I tried to have a shower to feel better, and I really didn't want to be like that. But some of the side effects and symptoms I started having were things like heart palpitations, heart racing, high blood pressure, feeling really fatigued. And I started to worry. I messaged my community care nurse, and she said those are normal symptoms of the chemotherapy that I'm on. And then I messaged another lady. I'd met this other amazing patient around my age, early 30s, in the hospital, and I told her the symptoms I was having, and she said, that's not normal symptoms of the chemotherapy. My heart was just pounding and I thought I was having a heart attack. And so I ended up, after talking to trying to talk to this rapid assessment unit at the hospital. They were closed because it was Easter Monday. They told me to go to the emergency department, so I did. We waited there and we got a bunch of tests. They did rush me through everything because I have a special letter from the doctor saying, I'm on this chemotherapy treatment and I need to be seen quickly, especially if I have a fever over 38 degrees because I'm immunocompromised at the moment. And when I was there, my blood pressure was just so high, my heart rate was so high. This is not something normal for me at all. They were quite worried and they kept saying, tachycardia, throwing things around. The machines were beeping off the chart. I did get to be in an isolated room because when you're going through chemotherapy, you can be toxic to others. So you do require that kind of pressurized room. But I was so scared. They did an ECG, they did blood tests. I can't remember what the thing they were checking for on the blood tests were, something starting with T. I want to say it's troponin. They were checking for that. And then the doctor said he wanted to do a CT scan of my lungs just to see if there was any kind of clot. So they rushed me through and did that. I was in the hospital for another few hours. They couldn't see anything suspicious or sinister, they said. But I was so worried, I was so freaked out. My daughter ended up going between family members while my husband stayed with me in the hospital. And up until this point, I thought everything was okay, but this freaked me out so much, and I actually had a moment where I thought I wouldn't make it. And I just remember saying to my husband, I love you so much. I've had a really great life with you. I didn't know what else to say, and it's hard to know what to say in those moments. And it was really that moment for me that I thought I wasn't going to make it. And I had been so positive and thought so positive and up until that moment, but I just couldn't explain what was happening. So they ended up saying they think I was okay, but right when they said that, I'd taken an endone and things had calmed down. But after a few hours, my blood pressure and heart rate were up again. I remember it was the same day, someone in the bed next to me was watching. They moved me to the short stay ward. Someone in the bed next to me was watching the news and it was saying that the Pope died. I remember people kept saying it was raining outside. And I was just worrying so much. I didn't know what to do. And I heard people coming and going saying it was raining outside. After that, my blood pressure started going up and my heart rate started going up again right when the doctor said she thought it was okay to go home. So then they did some more monitoring. There was nothing they could see that was wrong. So they ended up sending me home. I think we were in the hospital for about 7 hours, from about 12 till 7. That was our Easter Monday. And then I was anxious and I couldn't sleep that night. I kept waking up throughout the night with the heart pain, chest pain. And the next day I messaged the cancer care team at the hospital saying, this is all what happened. And they said that's not a normal symptom of the chemo that you're on. And they said, they don't have any space in the rapid assessment unit for me to come in, go back to ED if I'm experiencing those symptoms. I just didn't want to go back to ED for a second day in a row to get the same results. The Tuesday night, I hardly slept at all. I was up every hour. I was in the bath. I was trying to have a tea. I was trying to have a heat pack. I was trying to do everything I could to just calm down and chill. Nothing was working. I kept waking up my husband freaking out. My baby was actually sleeping really well, which was like, she hadn't been sleeping that well for a long time. I also recently gave up breastfeeding, so I was wondering whether the pain in my chest was actually in my boobs and whether it was any, residual breast milk that I, was still pumping a little bit to try and get the milk to go, or any blocked ducts. And then all night on the Tuesday night, I was just feeling awful, and I just psyched myself up on the Wednesday morning to go back to the hospital. I called the on-call number about like 6:30 in the morning. They told me to call the rapid assessment unit once they opened at 8, because they are like a triage thing, and they told me to go back to ED, but they said if you can wait, call the rapid assessment unit. So I called them at 8, and then they said they'll review my file. I said, look, I've been in ED on Monday. I don't really want to go back to ED. They just said, look, we don't assess anything to do with the heart. But I said, I have all my heart results there from, Monday. And then they ended up, like after an hour or so, they looked through all my files. They said I could come in. So I sent my daughter with family members again. It was a Wednesday, and my husband was going to work. He brought his laptop with him. I said, look, it's not like the ED visit. I think you can work. Like, I'm okay with it. I just want to get seen and get to the bottom of what's going on. They did some blood tests. They did an ECG. Everything looked okay. They were able to speak to my hematologist. And then right like after I'd been there a couple of hours, I remembered the Zoladex. And when I'd been in the hospital and when I'd been here, we hadn't talked about those Zoladex side effects. We realized that all these heart troubles and complications I was having were a result of the Zoladex. And this is consistent with the type of symptoms you might have and side effects within the first 2 weeks of having that drug. And so then at least I had peace of mind, and it was explained why I had these symptoms. I felt like with everything happening, I'd also had a bit of anxiety. So I don't think anxiety explained the full picture of what was going on, but I do think it explained, maybe 20% of like me being added to the situation. Sorry, I don't feel like I'm the most articulate that I ever have been, but I just want to share this story and journey because the first 2 weeks of chemo were harder than I expected, but towards the end of the second week, I started to feel normal again. I started to feel like myself. I don't know how I'll go with my hair. I know I might lose it, but I'm just enjoying it while I have it, and I still have reached out to people that I love when I've needed, and that has been a big support for me. I've had people praying for me. I've had people, just messaging me every now and then. I also, something on my mind is really, I want to have another baby after this, and I found a couple of birth stories, podcasts where people actually have gone on to have babies after this chemo. I'm feeling good going into my second round of treatment. I just felt like those first, 7 days felt like so long. At this stage, like, I'm meant to be in treatment for about 4 months with chemo every 2 weeks. There were times when I had certain things that just overwhelmed me, like imagining cannulas going into my veins and that my veins wouldn't make it and stuff like that. But I also leaned in a little bit to my work as an employee assistance program, so I was able to link up with a counsellor, and that really helped. And she said she's excited to watch the miracle of my recovery unfold. Like, just think about how beautiful that message is. And I've been really close to one of my cousins, which we've always been close throughout our life, but I feel like we're closer now more than ever. My other cousin is a nurse, and she's been so supportive and talking everything through. And the first cousin, her husband is a doctor, and it's just been so good to know that they're there in my corner, and if I do need any medical advice, I can turn to them. Some of my best friends, one is a nurse as well, so she can explain things about ED, and she's just so supportive. My best friend, I can just message her anytime and talk through things. And my husband has this unwavering support. I think I always just feel bad about burdening people and if I'm taking up too much of their time, but I need to take that out of my mind now. When I chatted to the counsellor too, she recommended going back to Joe Dispenza, who I have listened to his audiobooks before, but she suggested going back and reading a physical book is really good for me at this point. I've also been writing a lot, which has been really cathartic for me. And I've actually been spending more time with my daughter. I think I had this like mum guilt, especially when I had fatigue. And I don't usually wear glasses, I usually wear contact lenses. And she's just like grabbing at my glasses now and I have to sort of say no, like, and it's just a bit of a pain point. And I think she can just tell I'm not myself. Also that breastfeeding journey, I just felt so close to her while we were breastfeeding, but I had to give that away. And that's been really challenging for me, giving up breastfeeding. Breastfeeding was something I loved so much, and giving up breastfeeding has been a big challenge for me. There's so many blessings. I feel like I've been living in a forest. I've got so many beautiful flowers and gifts and things that people have sent me, and that really does mean a lot. I haven't been dressing how I usually would. I usually get a lot of enjoyment from dressing fancy. I think that's something I do want to get back into, but I just haven't felt like myself. When I've had energy, it's been good to get out of the house, go for a walk with my daughter and husband. Okay, well, I think that's like a lot of things about the first 2 weeks of chemo. I've got my next chemo in a couple of days, but I am feeling more like myself. I do get fatigue every now and then. Yeah. That's everything I'm thinking about. I guess I've been thinking about work a little bit as well. I'll just touch on that because so much of my work is my identity. I'm really in a really good role with a lot of flexibility that I've always loved, but I've found it really hard. Like they've said to me that I'll need a return to work certificate, and that makes me anxious because I love working. I just don't know what work is going to be in the future. It's hard for me to take like 4 months off work unexpectedly, but it's also good to take time to heal. I'm thinking that I might try and chat to work and see whether I could do a few days here and there because that would actually mean a lot to me. But I also found out there may be some funding cuts towards the role that I'm in, which coincides with the end of my chemo. So that's something on my mind. This was totally unexpected, but I can choose to see the positives every day. I can choose to do my gratitude journals, have a laugh with friends, listen to good music, eat good food, drink lots of water. These are all things I can try and do and just give myself the grace to heal.